that water comes down from the Appalachians and it washes that water and gives us what we consider to be the perfect pH for making whiskey.
When you get into it a little bit, there's definitely a whiskey for everybody.
Very challenging in some ways, and I would say that the most challenging aspect of, the alcohol industry is distribution.
I'm Allan Cogan. Join me as I highlight small businesses with interviews on site at distilleries, breweries, and more. My mission is to share the stories of the awesome people behind the craft. Welcome to Crafted Conversations. Well, Chris, we're here in Bostic, Golden Valley.
Absolutely.
Defiant Whisky, Blue Ridge Distilling Company, which I got to ask you about that because you're known as Defiant. I didn't know you were Blue Ridge Distilling Company until I did a little more research and got in contact with you.
Yeah, we pushed the Defiant brand for years, and that was the main brand. But the company name is Blue Ridge Distilling, and that's going to become more important as we go along and we have more expressions. We've got a hell of a lot more SKUs than we did before.
Yeah.
And we're going to be venturing into some other brands. We are doing bourbon, we are doing vodkas, and eventually we'll be doing a seasonal gin, but more on the crafty side. And those are going to be branded more on the Blue Ridge Distilling side than the Defiant. The Defiant's pretty much our baseline American single malts, but that will fall into the bourbons as well.
Awesome. Well, seriously, thank you for letting me come and invade your
pleasure. I was glad to have you here.
Stick a camera in your face and ask you questions. I just recently moved to North Carolina about a year ago. I'm originally born and raised in Wisconsin. And when I was visiting friends here in North Carolina, you were one of the first North Carolina whiskeys I tried. You go to an ABC store and you're like, I want to try something local. And Defiant was the first thing that I saw. And I'm like, I want to try that. And I love single malt. It was great. That's many years ago. And I'm so glad I'm finally able to make the time to come up here and see you. So thank you.
Oh, you're welcome. Very cool. Yeah, we were one of the first, we were just at a conference in Greenville and the guys were like, the other North Carolina distillers like, you were the OGs, you're the original guys. But we've remained small, and we haven't really busted out our distribution until the last 5 years is when we're really starting to book on some other stuff. So while we've been here, we're in you've seen we're in the middle of sort of nowhere.
Yeah,
which we'll get to. I'm sure we'll get to why we're here. But yeah, we've remained small kind of on purpose because we want to keep that craft distilling part of us alive, and we don't want to change that. We want to reach a certain goal, but we don't want to get too big for our britches.
Absolutely. I told you off camera that I made it a weekend trip for my wife and my son, who will be here later today for the festival.
Awesome.
Hang out, have some food and stuff. But we drove in late last night, and we're staying at an Airbnb in Shelby. And we're in the middle of nowhere. I almost called you either this morning or texted you late last night that I had to cancel because my son fell onto my wife's water bottle, her thermos.
Oh no!
And busted his lip.
Oh no!
It's not that bad. It looks like just a bad chapped lip. But in that moment, we're like, "Where's the closest ER?"
Yeah, and it's going to be a ways away.
Yeah. It's like now I feel bad. I drug my wife out of here.
It'll be your.
No, but we're good. And
for future reference, Morganton is where the closest tier 1 hospital.
Okay.
Yeah.
Good to know. Yeah, you'll see him later today. He'll have a swollen eye and a busted lip.
All right, we'll dab a little whiskey on it.
There you go.
It'll cure it.
So tell me about yourself. How did you get into this crazy world of distilling and whiskey making?
So I'm one of the owners. I'm a minority owner of the company. And what happened was they sent me out, the other owners sent me out to do due diligence when we decided to purchase. They were looking at purchasing the distillery. So they sent me out, is it a real company? Is this a real place? Is this something that's brandable? Is this something that we can turn into something? And so I went out, and then they asked me to go out again. And then they asked me to go out again. And after the third time, when I stood, I made sure I wasn't standing on plastic, first of all, because I said, guys, why am I going out here all the time? And they said, well, guess what? We want you to run the distillery. And I was kind of like, by that time, I think I was hooked. Knew nothing about the industry, knew nothing about whiskey. other than to be, I knew how to pull a cork and I knew how to tip a glass, but that's about all I knew. And one of the greatest things about it is I'm still today, we're 5 years in to this, and still today, I always claim I know nothing about whiskey, because every day you learn, every day you make mistakes, and every day you make corrections. And sometimes you make some stuff that comes out just phenomenal. And those are great days. And sometimes you're not going to know for 15 years whether you made something that was worth a damn or not.
Right.
But that's the other thing. Like, some of the things that we're putting into barrels now, I might never get to have. That just might not be something I'll ever get to taste. We taste these over time. We actually just tasted a bunch of our 2-year-olds coming out of the barrels. But it's just always, it's really cool when you're changing your industries to something where I'm learning every day, and it's great working with other people that are passionate, and that's what we have here.
Well, and that's one of the things I love about craft, and that's kind of why I do this show, is that I really get to see a billion different walks of life and come into a space where that enforces collaboration, encourages, playing with things. And, I wear a Blanton's hat for a reason, because it's of course they're historic, and they're old and they're great, but they're this big corporation nowadays.
Mm-hmm.
And you don't have PowerPoints and massive boardrooms and make decision makers. You're able to come in here and just kind of do things, and learn on the fly. And you weren't a distiller by trade. Were you a whiskey guy or an alcohol guy? I mean, I know you were Army, so I know that's a yes. But
yeah, that's a requirement. We're all Jaeger. I was in the 3rd Ranger Battalion, so we're all Jägermeister monkeys. but vodka was my original drink. But when I moved permanently to Tennessee, I started drinking bourbons, and bourbons were all I drank. I wasn't really educated up on, I'd had Scotch as far as single malts go, but I wasn't educated at all in American single malt. I never even knew what that was or what that profile was. So when I came here, it was sort of like a whole new opening, where we have our 100% malted rye, which was my favorite originally when we first got the place. That was my favorite whiskey. And from an award standpoint, it's our most award-winning whiskey. But our baseline American single malt, it's a different profile. And what the original owners wanted, and it's still what we want, is we want you to be able to taste the grain. As far as, we don't want to over oak something that you're just tasting wood. And we have some profiles that we do that with, that we age for a long time. But our younger whiskeys, you're going to taste grain. You're going to taste what a traditional sort of Wild West whiskey was going to taste like. That wasn't rot gut,
Right.
And so that's one of the things that got me into the world of whiskey. And now I have been tasting bourbons again, because we're making bourbon and we're playing around with mash bills. And it drives everybody here crazy, because every time you cook, if you're cooking a rye, it's going to be different than when you've got wheat. And if it's malted, it's different, and everything changes every day. The temperatures, like we decided that during the summertime, we're going to kind of go old school and stop producing in the summer, in the hottest months, because when we do our rye, which we had spoke about before, it's 100% malted rye, no enzymes. So we're not using any enzymes. So you have a tendency, especially in the summer, to get dough ball. You're going to get issues in the mash tun. And to prevent that, and we don't want to use enzymes, a little cooler weather, we still want to get our good conversions, and we don't want to get dough balls, and we don't want to clog up everything we got going. But that's the nature of rye. So
stories like that, and obviously I know it because I've been doing media in the industry for a while now. But people who are drinking a glass at home don't realize all those little intricacies. The dough ball factor, when it's warm out, when you're cooking rye, that's already a bitch to work with.
Yeah.
And then you're not doing it with enzymes,
Right.
adds to the bitch factor.
Yeah.
You don't even think about it like that's going to congeal, and we're going to do it in the colder months. That's wild. And that probably plays into a massive flavor factor too.
Sure.
Was that a learned process? Did you find out like, oh, we need to change our process with our malted rye because of this?
It was more of, why are we doing this when we know we have the same? If you have the same problem over and over, they say that's the definition of, stupidity, is when you do something over and over and expect a different result.
Right.
So, it gets, it's really pleasant in here, but it's not cold in here considering what time of year it is. But up on the catwalks, it'll get to be about 130 degrees in the summer.
Oh, sure.
So it's broiling up there. So there's just for the employees, in general, but it changes the flavor of the whiskey. It really, it really changes the flavor of the rye, of the temperatures when you're cooking it. And people think you're full of poo, but I'm telling you that every little thing changes it. The terroir of where your grain comes from, the malting of the grain, who malts the grain and how they malt the grain. So everything takes an effect on it.
Yeah. I'm super excited to know that I haven't tried your malted rye yet, and I knew you had it, so I'm excited to be here. But I knew you had American single malt.
Right.
So I'm excited that you have a malted rye. I'm curious what the calculus was. Maybe it's from the original owners. Was it always just a single malt adventure, and now you're trying to break into the bourbon, or what was the thought process behind that?
I think the original idea was, and I will tell you this. So the original owners, and even us, when 15 years ago, when they said we're going to make an American single malt, and they said that's stupid. Why are you doing that? It's the dumbest thing I've ever heard. No one's going to drink that.
Right.
Well, now right now, everybody's on the American single malt train. And, I want to say that Jack Daniels, they've got an American single malt that's not even available in the United States. You can get it in, I can't think of the name, duty free.
Oh, yeah.
On the way out, but you can't get it in the United States, maybe at the distillery, I'm not sure. And it's top of $400 a bottle or something like that.
Yep.
So haven't tasted it. I really would love to. And, when we see American single malts, we taste them. They're so vastly different.
Yeah.
And that may change with the new regulations that have come in with the TTB. I hope it doesn't change it too much, because I think the varieties, I don't know why you'd want to have a whiskey from our distillery and then go get another one off the shelf from somebody else's and it's going to taste the same.
That's right. That's how the point.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, and American single malt's having its moment. I'm kind of curious what the market does over the next 10 years with that, because bourbon will always be king.
Mm-hmm.
There's also I've been excited to see there's a resurgence of craft rum coming up too, which is great. Yeah. But nothing's going to beat bourbon. And I'm wondering if the new designation of American single malt gives you hope that you have, hey, this was our thing. And yeah, we're making bourbon because we want to. It's going to be great. But American single malt has now been propped up by this new thing. Or is it just going to be a flash in the pan?
It's that's a tough one. I mean, we overall ourselves were not happy with the regulations. We should have probably been following as they were developing them a little bit more. And I'm not sure I understand why they're over-regulating American single malt. Like, it's got to come off the still at 160 and it's got to do this, it's got to do that. Originally, they were going to try to go the same route of bourbon, where it had to go into a new oak barrel.
Right.
Which, from our standpoint, sort of, the Scots and everybody else around the world laugh at us, and they buy all our used bourbon barrels.
Yeah.
And they're using those because it's wasteful. If everybody wants to be green, everybody wants to be, ecological, and then you put a rule into effect that says, hey, it's got to be in a new oak barrel. It's stupid, and it's bad for the environment. So we're glad that they moved away from that.
Yes.
We're not happy that they moved to the 160 proof, because the reason for that is they're wanting the single malt to be produced on a pot still. And meaning you're going to have your stripping run, you're going to have a 2-run process. We're obviously running off a hybrid. And so we can go through on one full run, will give us what we want, but we're coming off at a different proof.
Right.
Now, that no longer is considered American single malt. So we have to change our formulas to come down to 160 to have an American single malt. It will change completely the flavor of it. And quite frankly, we don't think it tastes as good.
I'm curious, because I know you said you have some stuff that's already been made in a barrel aging.
Right.
What does that look like when... I mean, as of this recording, the government shut down, so we can't ask the important people the real question.
Right.
But what is that? Are you going to name it something different? Do you have to?
So
it's a weird.
Yeah, that was one thing I went to a Discus, I went to an ADI, and we were sort of, there's a few of us out there that are craft distillers. The big guys, this isn't making that big of a deal to you, but we're literally a micro distillery. And so we've got juice that's been in for 15 years that was an American single malt. And it's phenomenal, first of all. And second of all, it was in, we've got it varied from, we have some stuff that was in Cabernet barrels. We have some that was in white wine barrels. We have some that were in bourbon barrels and port, sherry, all over the place. Because we're small, we're able to fool around like that. And those rules weren't in place,
right?
That you had to have this kind of barrel, that kind of barrel. Much like bourbon now, you can't finish your American single malt in the sherry barrel anymore and call it American single malt, right? Which is a pisser. And it's also, we think it's stupid, but that's a different story. So we don't know what the ruling is on this, but we have been very boisterous in regards to, hey, you screwed us with a regulation for 15 years ago.
Yeah.
So is this grandfather? Is it not? We don't know the answer to that, but we have, and there's a couple other distilleries that are coming up with American whiskey. So we can call it American whiskey, come off the still it, whatever we want to. So we're probably going to do an original recipe, almost like, our Kentucky Fried. We're doing an original recipe, and we're going to be doing an American single malt on the specs that they want us to come out with. But I have a suspicion that people are going to like the American whiskey better.
Yeah.
But again, it's up to their palate. Everybody's got a different palate.
Of course. Well, and that, I mean, it's frustrating. Obviously, no law is perfect. And as excited as I am that they finally designated it as a thing, there's obviously going to be those slip through the crack moments like this.
Yeah.
I'm curious what they would think about that. Have you heard any feedback from some people at Discus or ADI that say, hey, wow, we didn't think about that crap?
Well, it's sort of, it's again, like you said, it's after the fact. So you're seeing a lot of articles in the trade mags, in regards to people going, I mean, a lot of us didn't even know this was happening. We don't have enough hats that we can be involved in that side of the world and do what we do.
Right.
So a lot of things, it's just sort of like, I was literally sitting at a conference and like, oh, congrats everybody, they'd made an American single malt designation. I was like, what? I was like, we already got that, but it was like, yeah, we have to, put everything into little boxes. And I'm just, we don't like overregulation, bottom line. We let, we're our branding, everything about us is, the live free or die kind of thing. And that's how we do our whiskeys. That's the way we want to live. We don't want people telling us how to make our whiskeys, as long as we're making it safely and it's, something that's approved for consumption by the public. That's all we want.
Yeah.
But again, we'll sort it out, and maybe we have an American whiskey. Maybe we have whiskey. I mean, at one time it was like, you can't even call it whiskey. And it was like, come on, we'll see what happens as the chips fall. And there's going to be changes. I think there's really going to be changes to the American single malt designation. And I'm hoping they're going to be a little bit more flexible on where you come off the still and how you're producing it.
Yeah, I would hope so. Especially, I mean, man, 15 years, 12 years. What's your oldest that you have?
15.
Yeah,
that's the oldest. Yeah.
My goodness.
Yeah.
And again, like you had mentioned that was at a time when American single malt wasn't really happening.
Didn't exist. Yeah. And I mean, there's like literally, I think there was like 3 other places in the U.S. that were making American single malt back in. I mean, I'm sure there's people back in the 80s. Maybe, sure, but not a lot.
Well, so this is an interesting climate question, because a lot of people who aren't educated about or haven't tried a side-by-side or whatever, they usually think, oh, American single malt is just a Scotch copy. As the original single malts are Irish and Scotch. Right. And they're not. I mean, obviously the ingredients are the same, malted barley, but the climate in Scotland is kind of what gives Scotch the ability to be 20 plus years old. And then of course you pay for that. 15 seems old for North Carolina.
It is.
So I'm curious about how much that barrel has just influenced that whiskey. I mean, that sounds amazing.
Yeah.
And different.
Yeah.
And a risk.
And sometimes too much. And sometimes, we're not over blenders.
Yeah.
But because we do like single barrel, we like that whole idea. But sometimes, we've got one that we'll probably have you try before you leave that you're going to go, maybe too long in there.
Okay.
But one of the cool things that we have is our climate, our environment here. And we're in a microclimate here, by the way, just where we are in the mountains.
Oh, okay.
So it's actually got a little bit more mild of a climate than some of the rest of the Appalachians. And Appalachians for all you local, sorry guys. And so, but we have, like you're saying, the weather, in Scotland is sort of, goes along the same one, where we like getting our whiskey out of the barrels right around this time of year, or when it gets a little colder, so everybody gets exposed out of the stabs and everything. And but the breathing of these barrels, man, is off the chain. A lot of times you'll see whiskey drop in proof, right? We don't. So ours, yeah. So we go up like we just, as a matter of fact, tested one of our. It's not even that old. I think it's we went in at 125, and it's coming out at 147.
Ooh.
Yeah, and oddly, we're drinking it here and it's at 147 and we're like, this is really good. And we're like, yeah, we can't put this out at 147. People, that's Matt. Yeah. So exactly. But it's really good at 147. So it's like, as we cut it down, you got to be real careful. There's a sweet spot. And, you sometimes, I've seen right now there's a trend toward high proof alcohols anyway.
Yep.
I think that's going to change. The one thing that we always say about high proof alcohols, and we do like them, and some of ours, we have a pretty good range, but it's a lot easier to hide at high proof. You can hide a mistake at high proof because you're getting alcohol,
right?
Whereas you're down at 82 or in 92, there's no hiding. If you scoot up,
it's there.
You can taste it.
Yeah,
you can taste it in the recipe. So we like to do that too, is to have our low proofs, because it shows that, the guys are skilled at what they're doing. The distiller knows what he's doing, and we're doing it on a regular basis, on a continuous basis.
Are you able to, I'm always curious about the business side, because as someone who would maybe down the road with a buddy wants to start a distillery, because I've been orbiting the distilling world, and I have a well on my property, so I got to figure out what to do with that water. Don't tell the ATF. But the calculus of how much you can play versus how much you have to fill the cash register and make the things sell, because that hazmat, right? That sounds like it'd be great for me as an egotistical person. I made something that's really good at that proof. I want to release a single barrel, limited run of that bottle.
Yeah.
But will it sell?
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Are you able to put out like, hey, we're going to put 50 bottles of that as it is and then use the rest for blending, or what? How does that work?
Yeah. I mean, the thing is, there's a lot, you have to be ingenious economically, and you have to kind of weigh those things together. As like, we're really lucky here where our ownership is solid, and they're proud to have a brand that they can go somewhere and go, this is my whiskey, this is Defiant Whiskey, this is my whiskey.
Yeah.
And so they go into a party and they got this bottle. And so if I say, hey, we want to do this 12-year, it's been in a Cabernet, and we're going to pretty much keep it as it is, we'll filter it. There's even arguments about, should we filter it? And I'm like, we're filtering it. God, I mean, after that long, it's, chunky. Right. So we filter it, and it's $1,000 a bottle. Woo. We don't sell a lot of them, but we sell them. And so that's, and it's, you're not going to sell a $1,000 bottle of whiskey a lot, unless you're Pappy's or some of these,
right,
high-end brands. But the people that have had it, and I will tell you, we've probably given more out as gifts,
sure,
than we've sold. But it's the people that really like whiskey, or people that are important to us. So there's that side of it. And then, like you said, maybe we're blending a little bit with the rest of it, and we're turning it into a nice blended mellow whiskey that's got a decent sell point. And that's one of the things that we just discussed for the new year.
We're talking about a lot about the location here too. What drew? Yeah, why out of the middle of nowhere Appalachia?
Okay,
in North Carolina.
So this was originally a farm, and we're actually built like right below us, approximately 280 feet below us, is a limestone cavern.
Oh,
so we're built on a limestone aquifer, if you will. And that water comes down from the Appalachians, and it washes that water and gives us what we consider to be the perfect pH for making whiskey. So it's funny because the water's great to drink, but it is a little hard on the tongue if you're drinking it like every day all the time. So you got to be a little careful on that side of it. But it's clean, it's great mountain water, and of course it's basically been mineralized and cleansed, and it literally, we do testing all the time. We specifically did testing after the hurricane.
Oh, sure.
Through. So we were really concerned of, okay, we have great water, it's getting clean, but what's coming through now?
Yeah.
And we were righteous. So luckily we weren't affected here very much. We have a river right behind us here.
Yeah.
So there was threat of that, and there was obviously threat of, there was a lot more woods here before, like when you came in, that whole thing was all wooded and it's gone.
That was all tearing out.
Yeah,
by the hurricane. Holy crap!
There's trees as wide around as this barrel they're up on the ridge. We own about 110 acres here.
Wow!
And they looked like they were just twisted, like they were nothing, twisted off at the root and broken into pieces. It was unbelievable, and we can't even lift them with our tractors.
My goodness.
So, I mean, it was devastating. We had a few of our employees that lost power for several weeks. This place lost power for a while, and we ended up losing some ferments, so yeah, that was it. Our employees ended up coming in here though for water and electricity as it came through. We also, one of the things we do is we take our chub and we feed the used grains to local farmers, pig farmers and beef farmers, and then we get that cattle. We'll get like 1 or 2 pigs per season, 1 or 2 cows per season, and we'll chop that up and sort of have that for friends and family. But when we had the hurricane, we lost power, so our refrigeration and freezing lost. So we ended up getting together with some of the law enforcement and some of the emergency workers, and we fed all the linemen our whiskey pigs and whiskey cattle, which is a really cool way of making sure that, it was kind of going back into the community and not getting wasted.
That's awesome.
Yeah, it was very cool.
As I do more traveling around North Carolina, which is an easier job for me, especially with a 1-year-old at home for the show. When I travel outside of that, it's usually for a family trip or a conference or something. But I'm making my way more west. And when I started the show, it was a lot of conversations about how COVID had affected businesses. And now I'm starting to encounter more how the hurricane affected businesses. Yeah. It's like, man, as a small business, when something happens like that.
Well, and it was funny because I'm from Tennessee.
Yeah.
And where COVID where I live in Tennessee, it's like if you had a mask on, they would be like, "What's wrong with you?" But in the city, in Nashville and in the city locations, everybody was masked up, and even in some times there was curfews on when you could go to work and when you couldn't go to work.
Yep.
And as you came eastward, like here, COVID did not affect us at all, other than purchasing and people visiting.
Right.
And so that was one of the things that was different here. But these guys, I mean, COVID, it was like, this is like a microcosm that was totally outside the realm. Now, the hurricane affected everybody in this area. Asheville,
yeah, was
completely, and a lot of focus was on Asheville because there's a lot of money there. But like, you didn't hear about Black Mountain. You didn't hear about Lenore and a lot of the other places that really got crushed. But like from our business side, there's distilleries, they didn't have water. I mean, they didn't have water for months. They didn't have electricity for months. So they were effectively shut down. And some distilleries they're gone.
Yeah.
And they're not coming back, unfortunately.
Yeah.
But there's other, the Chemist is a great distillery that's up there. And they were sucking wind, and they're back, and they're here, and I think they're here to stay. So
good.
So, and they're a competition to us, but yeah, we like competition, and it's friendly.
Exactly.
Yeah. We were even talking about doing some collaborations with them in regards, especially we have the Veterans Day fair that we're doing here today. And we'd kind of like to do something for Veterans Day and do maybe a collab kind of bottle or something like that.
Yeah, I love it. And that's a perfect segue, because that's half the reason why I'm here, is because you're having this festival. You have, we're both vets. And by the way, thank you for your cooler service than mine. I'm just a guardsman reservist, so I was part-time weekend warrior.
Well, I came to learn and I was in the middle of Honduras, and we had to go extract somebody from a mission that we were on. And if it wasn't for the dude that delivered the fuel blister bag, he was the coolest person that we've ever seen, because he got us what we needed to get and make our mission done. Everybody's important.
That's completely fair. I've never said that. I've told the story on camera. My grandfather he was a master gunny in Vietnam, and he was in charge of an Air Force supply run on a plane. And this pilot was probably 19 years old and just scared shitless. And they were coming over the canopy, and they started taking small arms fire through the belly of the plane. Then a wood splintering, and the pilot starts to pull up. And my grandfather goes in the cockpit and says, "What are you doing?" And he said, we're taking fire. He's like, "They're back there. Land the plane. My men need this stuff." And he said, "Well, I can't." My grandfather pulls a sidearm and puts it to this poor 19-year-old Air Force pilot's head and says, "Land this plane." In probably a meaner way than that. And he did. He went to his CO and said, "Hey, I did this." And then they talked to the pilot and said, "Hey, are you good?" It's like, "Yeah, okay, well, you did the right thing. Thank you for listening. Don't ever do that again. Good job. We all love you." Yeah. Anyway,
that's an awesome story.
Yeah. So tell me about the Patriot release. First of all, I love that you do something with all this. So tell me about that.
So what we do is, and this was one of my things when I first came on board, was I said, you know what, let's do something for Veterans Day. We already participated with a lot of different vets organizations, and I got more involved. The longer you're out, the more I get involved in some of the veterans organizations, and some of them I was like, okay, you don't realize how, quite frankly, fucked up there's a lot of vets, right? And I was luckily born without a conscience or a sense of guilt, so I don't have that problem. But there's a lot of people that do, and I get it, but I get it now more than I've met a lot of these folks. And it's like, it didn't really comprehend that there's people who they can't function. I mean, they're having trouble functioning in society. So those programs need buckage, and those programs need care. And, you have a huge homeless veteran problem. You have a huge suicide problem with veterans.
Yes, we do.
It ranges 21, 22 a day, which is insane when you think about how many that is. That's more than combat casualties.
Yep.
It's crazy. So we tried to get the best of the different charities, and we vet them all the time, and we change a little bit here and there all the time. But so everything, like for instance, every dollar today that gets spent goes to veterans organization, every single dollar.
That's beautiful.
100% of the profits of our Patriot bottles go to those same organizations. They go to charity.
Wow.
So we don't make a dime off of our Patriot. And we change every year. We change the bottle. Every year we change the recipe. So it's going to be different every year. They're numbered bottles. Usually we have a symbol, like a little secret symbol. This year we have a nod to the CCT and the pararescue guys. So we have little Hulk feet on the bottle, but there's always something that we have that's a little different for vets that know what that is. And that's kind of, we'll be doing this every year. We're as long as we have the buckage, the owners are really cool about supporting it. And they throw in extra money on top of whatever we earn too. And to quite a tune. So that's one of the really cool things about it.
That's beautiful. Well, first of all, I appreciate that, and that's really cool. And I bet the response from the community has been amazing. I mean, that's part of what I love about a lot of the nonprofits and the craft space, especially, is that you can do those things. Yeah. And it sounds like you're proud of it. I love talking. Yeah. That's why I love doing this, is I get to come here and talk to you, one of the guys who's part of this, and I hear it in your voice. It looks like this is an awesome, meaningful thing that you do.
Yeah, I mean, it's funny when you look at, I served as an enlisted guy and I served as an officer, but my service was, akin to a ham sandwich compared to some of these guys that have been, 7, 8 tours out on the different places. And so, they've been through a lot, and you can't just let them go after the fact and not take care of people that went into the breach.
Absolutely.
That's a big belief of ours. We've got the Marine Corps League out here. Most of those guys are Vietnam veterans, and they're a hoot. We support them every year. They're a local league, and you'll see them tipping the cork and getting patrioted up over the course of the day. So they do a barbecue out here every year.
I love it.
Yeah.
One of the things I'm exploring doing, well, first of all, I'm on the ADI Veterans Board. We're working on, we'll talk more about.
Oh, yeah. They actually just threw out an email, I think, to us not too long ago, unless I'm mistaken.
Yeah. Well, so I'm good friends with the vice president.
Okay.
And then Troy, he was part of Whiskey Tango Foxtrot. I think that's the brand name. I get that wrong. But we're trying, our number one goal right now is to help veteran brands get into AAFES, because they're a bitch. And it's like when you walk into an ABC store, or I'm from Wisconsin, so you can walk into Walmart and have a like locally made. If you could have it in an AP store on Fort Bragg,
yeah,
like made by veterans, even North Carolina veterans, like an NCAP,
yeah,
they don't work well with distributors and all the things. So we're trying to remedy that with some kind of either kickback, or if there's a veteran distributor discount from the federal government, TTB access, whatever. I think it's really important. But in doing all that, I've done a little bit of research, and I actually kind of want to start wargaming and boarding a documentary on veteran alcohol brands, because there's a lot of them.
Yeah.
And there's a reason. And you and I could probably speak to that because of our experiences, but there's also that dark side of the coin, right? And that's one of the weird things that we have to deal with. And, around a campfire with a cigar and a whiskey, that's the veteran story.
Yeah.
Making sure that doesn't go past that is where we have to figure this out. But it's something of like 80% of veterans who get out try to be an entrepreneur. Mm-hmm. And then something of like 30% of those people go into craft alcohol, whether it be brewing or distilling, which is a massive number. So I'm looking at doing something with that, figuring out, telling that story, because it is a dark part, but I think there's a lot of camaraderie that comes from places like this.
Yeah.
So anyway, just a message.
Well, and the funny thing about too, when you get veterans together, the one thing when you're split apart, is you can't sit down with a bunch of folks that were civilians that have never been in and seen the things you have and talk to them about it. It doesn't translate. They don't get it, or they don't get the sick humor.
Right.
You know, I mean, you know, some of the things, you know, that you do, some of the guys that get wounded, you're like, yeah, you know, can't see eye to eye anymore because the guy lost an eye. It's sick humor, but everybody laughs about it when you're in that realm, whereas somebody outside the realm is like, you're a sick bastard, you know? It's great to have that camaraderie. It's great to be able to have people get together and tell their tales and get some of their angst out if that's what they've got in them and that's what they've got built up. So I think that's important. I think that's one of the things that's lacking, but there's organizations that are working to fix it. Yep. So bottom line.
Absolutely. And I love that you're supporting it.
Oh yeah.
I mean,
absolutely.
I appreciate it. So I know you have a couple things poured. I do want to try something with you before we move on to your distiller, but because you told me you have a cast of characters that I have to talk to.
Yeah, absolutely. And they are characters. They're all different. We're like a really messed up, dysfunctional family, but it's almost like having a family here. And so everybody's different. Everybody's wacky. You'll see, talking to our distiller, he's a bubble off center, and that's kind of where we want him to be. Good. And that's without alcohol in him. So
good.
Yeah. So, I mean, we have a couple expressions that if you want to try, or how do you want to do that?
You lead the way. What is something that you are so damn proud of?
I have our Patriot. Okay. And this is one of those this is for this year. I'm going to make sure I'm correct. So this is a cherry cask Patriot.
Okay.
You're going to take the nose. It's going to have what I call a stinky nose on it.
Okay.
And with cherry is really weird because it can tend to come out medicinal.
Yeah.
It can tend to come out a little funky. I will call this one funky on the nose.
Oh, yeah.
And on the palate, it's going to be sweet and slightly floral. And you'll actually taste almost like sakura cherry blossom on the palate a little bit. So and it's funny. This one, people love it or they hate it. So but I'd rather have you have this one as the first one. But you can smell that kind of that funk on the nose.
That's wild.
Yeah.
Right. Oh, that's like instantly drying.
Yeah.
Oh, I like that a lot.
Yeah, and it's funny. It tastes a hell of a lot better than the nose.
Yeah,
right.
The nose throws me off with the flavor, but it's very, very earthy and floral.
Yeah,
which is very different for a single malt.
Yeah,
for me.
Yeah. Well, and officially, this one would not now any longer be called a single malt because we put it into cherry wood.
What's the age on it?
The age is going to be it's under a year.
Oh wow, really?
Yeah.
Holy cow.
Yeah.
That's just a cherry wood. That's color.
Just cherry wood. Yeah.
That's good job.
Yeah. Well, and that's we were pouring it for some folks yesterday because today is its release date, and so it was sort of like I'm like, well, I like it, but you never know, man. And so we had a few people that you're like sitting on the edge of opinion. You're like, are they gonna throw this back at me, or is this gonna be something that they like? So hopefully you like that. I'll have you try 2 more if that's cool.
Yeah, of course.
All right. So the next one I'm going to have you try is what we call our Santer. Santer is a local legend here in the Appalachians, sometimes called a Wumpus cat. It was basically a Wendigo or a werewolf, like a werecat that the Native Americans here believed in, and they've spotted them from pre-colonial times up until the 80s. That's the symbol you'll see on caves all the time for that cat. We put them on there. That's actually painted on the caves all over the place up here.
Oh, that's cool.
And this is 80% American single malt, 20% 100% malted rye.
Oh,
so it's a nice little mix. That's this one here. If you take a taste of that one,
okay.
We're sort of going up in flavor profiles.
Ooh.
So made with a lot of French oak on this one.
I can smell the French oak on it.
Yeah.
I don't think I've ever had a malted rye, malted barley mix.
Hopefully not. Yeah, like I said, we tried to do some pretty funky stuff. This is one of the new favorites of people, by the way. So this goes off really well with a lot of folks.
Yeah, I love that malted rye influence.
Yeah.
That's good. That's fun.
Yeah, it's fun.
Yeah.
That's a good way to say it. It's a fun one. You get the oakiness, you get the woodiness, but you also get some caramel and some, a little bit of that chew that's coming off the rye. Yeah.
Yeah, I love that blend of like that little bit of rye spice, but it's with those espresso-y, chocolatey, malted notes that I love.
Yeah.
That's why I grab it. My intro to whiskey was Scotch.
Okay.
And of course, as an American patriot, I love my bourbon too.
Yeah.
But then I started coming into American single malt where it's like, oh,
Yeah.
this is a thing.
Yeah.
Anyway, so that's fun. I love that a lot. And how old is this? I know it's a blend, but
This is just under 3.
okay.
Yeah.
Man. I like that a lot.
So
I know today I'm supposed to say your Patriot's the best, but I like that a lot.
well, you know what? And everybody, it's some days this is my favorite, and some days I love our Devil's Cut. So our Devil's Cut, and you can see the milk cans that are around here.
Oh, yeah.
And it changes. This is batch 3. It changes every single batch that we do. So what we do is we go on spiral wood. When we first make, we go on spirals, which I'm not sure if you're familiar with. Okay. So we throw them on spirals. We set them in spirals for X amount of days, and then we go into barrels.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. So we do sort of a double oaking, which is why you're getting some of the colors you're getting that short a maturation time.
Right.
So we'll often take the spirals and we throw them into these milk cans just because they were there, and because that's what we used to draw off the still. And they put them outside, and it was in the summertime, and they came back like a week later, when I yelled at them saying, "What the hell are the milk cans doing outside?" And so when they picked it up, they started sloshing, and the whiskey had extracted back out of the wood. And so we're like, and they're like, okay, well, let's throw this out, I said, no, let's try this. And it was super, you can see the color is dark as heck.
Yeah.
And that's an influence of that French oak, by the way. So we tried it, and we're like, oh my God, this is good. So I said, okay, can we do this as a byproduct on purpose?
Yeah.
For the future? So it changes every single batch.
Right.
So you're going to have more influence of rye sometimes. You're going to have more influence of American single malt. And you're going to have sometimes, like our batch 4 will have a real heavy influencing bourbon.
Oh.
So you get more of that corn. And everything we do, we use malted corn.
Yeah.
And so, because I have to make things difficult for the distiller, so we use the malted corn.
You guys don't malt here, though.
No, we do not.
Okay. Because that's another bitch.
Although, the idea is there, because I need more problems, so, but our next thing is a rick house. Okay. Because you can see, as we're kind of running out of room here. So a rick house is our next thing. And then after that, a malt house would be something great to do once we learn how to do it properly. But there's the guys that are doing the malting, they do it so well.
Yeah.
So in any case, you got that Devil's Cut.
It's good.
Yeah, it's going to have some similarities to that Santer, but it's going to be a little different.
That's like a chocolate bomb in your nose. What a flavor bomb.
Yeah. Do you like it?
I love that.
Okay.
That's wild.
Yeah.
What's the proof on that?
110.
110, yeah.
Yeah, and it's a smooth 110.
I was going to say, it tastes like an 80.
Yeah. And
wow.
It's weird. Like we've had people that will drink it, and then over the course of as they're drinking it, each sip tastes different. It's weird. It's our weirdest blend.
So how did you figure out the secret way to make it scalable from that accident? You know what I mean?
Yeah, we did trial and error. It was like, okay, we had an accident. It was a good accident. Can we recreate the accident? And it just took a little bit of time, and we were able to recreate the accident.
Love that.
So yeah, and so we've got a lot of that juice is sitting in totes, not barrels, right now. So because we're getting that, we're still getting a lot of that wood. We actually ended up throwing some of that wood back in even after we bleed out.
Yeah.
So we have some of that wood in there, and as it sits, the longer it sits, the only fear we have is getting over oaked. And so far, we've not had that problem. And there's like people that like oak tend to like the Devil's Cut.
Yeah, for sure. But there's a lot of wood in. But I'm an oaky person.
Yeah,
so I love that.
Yeah, and we have people just so clearly. I'm not too much wood for me, so I'm not here for that. We did one of my favorites that we had, by the way, because I said the rye was my favorite. We had 123 proof. It was cask proof Patriot one year, and we had done that on French oak, and that was my favorite. But I mean, I drank it on ice.
Yeah.
Where everybody is it going to be neat? Is it going to be on ice? What are you doing? Putting an orange in there or whatever, And we believe people should drink their whiskey the way they want their whiskey. That's the bottom line. So love it. The last one I have for you is the one we can't put out yet because we need the label approved.
Oh, that's right.
ETB. Yeah. But the reason I didn't want to blow your palate away with a blackberry whiskey. But the important thing about this one was we wanted to make sure that it was a whiskey, not a blackberry fruit bomb type of thing.
Yeah.
So you can smell it on the nose. Right
There.
But
I love it. Where the festival's about to start, so I love it.
But the bottom line is, we tested some of the other whiskeys that were out there, the Crowns, we actually came out around the same time as Jack came out with their blackberry.
Oh, that's right.
But they got to market. We didn't get to market yet.
Well, they shot power and money.
Yes, indeed. And so, but we were tasting theirs, and there was even some other ones that they even colored them and stuff. And when we were developing this, I was like, well, no, I want a blackberry whiskey. But they're like, well, if you add this chemical into it, it'll taste like. And I was like, no, I want blackberry whiskey. Well, yeah, but if you add, and I was like, no, I want blackberry. I want a freaking blackberry. It's simple. It's juice.
Yep.
We can concentrate it.
Yep.
But that's it. And it's got sugar in it, but I don't want a ton of sugar.
Yeah.
So that it tastes like candy. It wants to taste like whiskey. So see what you think.
Man, first of all, I love blackberry stuff, so
okay,
it's the only Crown I'll touch.
Well, and like I said, the distillers mutinied on us because they don't want flavored whiskey, but it's a very popular thing.
Oh yeah, that's not syrupy or sugary at all.
Do you like it?
That's great.
Yeah.
I have a billion cocktails in my head right now.
Right, that's where. Yeah.
Even just this on ice.
Yeah,
that's a summery, beautiful drink.
So as a club soda, you can make a highball with it. It's awesome.
Yep.
And if you like sweet, then you can add a lemon soda, lemon soda.
What's the base for it?
Is it just American malt?
Yeah, that's good.
But it still tastes like whiskey to me.
Yeah.
It's got the blackberry, but
that's great. Well, I'll tell you what, because this episode with you is coming out next Saturday.
Okay.
So in a week's time, we're recording right now on the 8th, Veterans Day weekend. Let's pray that the government is open by next Saturday so I can put in the description, GTV approved.
That would be lovely. Yeah. And then we'll have you try our Trampus cream, which is our bourbon cream, once we get that approved.
Ooh, that sounds good.
Can you even hear us anymore?
Yeah, we're still there, but it's happening. I love it. Well, Chris, thank you so much. This is an absolute pleasure. It's you have something great going here, and I'm glad I made the time to come up because, I'm here all day, so.
All right, you make sure you get, tell me what your favorites are, and we'll hook you up.
I appreciate it.
And we'll get you a proper hat, too.
Oh, good. Yeah, I know. This is my conversation starter.
No worries.
Hey, y'all. Allan Cogan here with Crafted Conversations. If you want to support the show and the mission of sharing the stories of craft, head over to buymeacoffee.com/craftedcombos. I'd really appreciate throwing a couple bucks my way to help me pay for travel, the equipment that I use, the time that I spend editing, all the software that I use. I really appreciate any support you can give me. And if you can't afford a couple bucks, at least give me some feedback or go over to your YouTube and subscribe or follow us on Spotify. Anything helps to make sure that we share the story of craft and give these small business owners a little limelight and get them out on a platform that really showcases what they're doing. I can't do this without you guys or your support, so I would really appreciate you pitching in and helping out. So I'll see you out there, and I really appreciate it. Cheers. Well, Zach, thank you for hopping in after Chris to talk about your side of the business. You're the distiller.
That's me.
You're the master chemist, the engineer, the brains behind all the awesome stuff we have here. Tell me about how you got into distilling. What's your background?
I wish it sounded more magical, but I pretty much, from my previous job, wanted to do something different and thought what I might want to do and wanted to get into distilling. I worked at a food truck at a brewery before this, and then, so I liked brewing and all that, but distilling has always felt just a little more interesting, a little more magical. Just having the still, I don't know, I guess it makes a big difference for me as opposed to nothing against the brewing world. It's just that extra little thing that makes it interesting for me. And so I started working here a few years ago and learned as much as I could from the previous distiller. And here we are.
I love that.
But I'm definitely really into it. I like whiskey a lot. I feel a little snobby about it now that it's been a few years, but that's okay. Like, I'm definitely into it. But we are getting into some vodka and gin here. I'm really big on gin as well, and I've done a couple test gins already.
Okay.
So that'll be pretty exciting.
Yeah.
For our vodka, we're going to go with Polish potato spirit, and for our gin, French wheat. But vodka has proof rules that you have to adhere to call it vodka, which I can't quite reach on our still.
Oh, I see.
So that's why we'll be sourcing that. Gin, on the other hand, you don't have to have a neutral spirit for, but I've found I prefer it as far as just picking up what you want to from the botanicals and all that, and also just not being distracted from the botanical taste, where when I've had gins that were made not with such a high proof spirit to start, I just feel a little distracted by the grain flavor in there. I guess I'm picking up on when it's too low of proof. So I'm excited for what we're doing in the future too.
I love that. Well, as someone who is, before I started the show and went around to different craft distilleries and learned what gin could be, I hated gin. I only knew like Beefeater, London Dry.
I don't like Beefeater, and that's one that kind of scarred me early on, where I know a lot of people have an experience with gin where they just got one and it just did not agree with them. Beefeater was one where it took me a while to drink gin again. Because I was like, if that's what gin is, I'm okay.
Yeah, I was in the same camp.
Well, what kind of gin do you like now?
I like gin that is just enough juniper to be legally called gin.
Can understand that, and I think there's plenty of gins that are juniper heavy, and the definition for it is interesting. They say it needs a predominant juniper flavor, but we've all had enough gins that that's not the case. I had one where all I could taste was vanilla, which I'll say I am also interested in gins that aren't juniper heavy, but probably not with the forward of vanilla. Like both Chris and I are really big fans of cardamom, and so like there's a lot you can do and not have it be overwhelmingly juniper. But at the same time, I want to say it might be a thing of quality of juniper. It turns out that if you go fancy with your juniper berries, like get the Italian juniper berries, makes a big difference. There's this gin called Bar Hill Gin out of Vermont that just uses juniper and honey. Yep. And it's one of my favorites. So, but I'm with you. There's enough juniper forward gins out there.
One of my favorite gins, and like I said, as I've ventured more into craft and people who are making actually quality gins, I'll try a juniper heavy gin because it's better than Beefeater in my college days.
Yeah.
But I'm originally from Milwaukee, Wisconsin, and I always talk about them. They're my favorite distillery. I'm biased. It's Great Lakes Distillery in Milwaukee, Wisconsin, right downtown, and they have a Bottle and Bond 4-year-old barrel-aged gin.
Okay.
And it's like candy. And that I have on my shelf. I'll drink that neat. I'll make a barrel-aged.
Now, that's not too juniper forward?
No.
Okay, because I was going to say I like barrel-aged gin, but especially that's one that I really don't like juniper forward, where I feel like it doesn't work with the oak personally. Right. I'm not saying that that's set in stone, but that's one where I'd much rather some other things being the predominant flavor there.
Yeah. So I'm curious, as a distiller, were you a whiskey guy before you became a distiller? You had an interest in alcohol, or?
In whiskey specific, I want to say I was probably more into gin before I started working here. Okay. And then learning more about whiskey made me just want to try something besides maybe Jack Daniels or Jameson, like maybe most people drink when they're not real nerdy about it. Yeah. But when you get into it a little bit, there's definitely a whiskey for everybody. That being said, you're also kind of a whiskey person or not. But once I kind of I don't know. I first really started like an Eagle Rare, probably like a lot of people too. Just really like that kind of leathery thing you get with fancy bourbons. And then, I got into other stuff now too. We're doing, some whiskey for arch racing, which is, something Keanu Reeves is a part of, but he's really into Japanese whiskey. So I started getting into that a bit more recently, which is, kind of its own thing, even though it kind of learned a lot from Scotch. I'm seeing what the thing is with especially Hibiki and stuff like that, where their mash bills are really interesting, where they just use kind of a little bit of corn, but it's just enough to kind of round everything out. And so I see why what the thing is there, and so we're definitely trying to mix some things like that too.
I'm curious because as someone who wants down the road with a buddy to start a distillery and kind of play around, and I told Chris, I was joking, like, ATF, disclaimer, I'm not doing it. I have a well on my property. I figure out how to use that water. But
I mean, that's an important starting point.
Yeah. But I like Scotch. I got into Scotch. Scotch was my intro to whiskey. So I would probably venture into making American single malt, which is why I'm excited to be here, because you guys make a great product. But then also for the bourbon side, I'm a wheated bourbon fan.
Okay.
So I know as a maker, I would want to gravitate towards the thing that I like. Have you found, like, is your leash long enough to kind of make the things that you enjoy? What does that relationship look like towards, like, I have to make this because this is what our brand is known for, but I also want to play and do distiller creative things over here?
I want to say here we do a good amount of trying to make what we all really want to make. We have some Mizunara barrels on the way, which are just far from affordable, but really interesting.
Yep.
And we do our 100% rye, which is not easy at all. Definitely a labor of love. It makes such a thick mash that I guess there's a bunch of beta glucans in there that make it almost like okra stew or something. It's slimy. Your motor might stop moving your mixer because it's struggling just with how kind of thick it is. And so it's just a not easy thing. Plus the numbers can be, I mean, we use 100% malted rye, but I want to say there's probably just enough enzymes to make it work. So it's not our cheapest product we make either, but we've got some of that over 2 years old. We haven't released yet, just kind of letting age more, but that's one of my favorites. I'm a big rye guy, but when you go 100% rye, it gets risky. Where the other one I bought the other day, I can't remember what the distillery was, but I think it was all or mostly unmalted rye, just because I got this big minty flavor and I felt like I was just like had rye grain in my mouth, and that wasn't what I wanted. But when our rye comes off the still, it's just instantly like smooth and sweet right off the bat. I can see why rye is generally more forgiving, where you can get away with a not super old rye and have it be pretty awesome. Where in the bourbon world, I'm finding it helps to be patient. It's all that corn, it can start a little hot on you. It just needs time to kind of interact with the oak enough to mellow out. But so I guess I ran on a bit, but we definitely experiment here. This Patriot we did this year was with we have it called Cherry Cask, but technically it was in a used Cabernet barrel for 2 years. This is just not to be overly wordy, is why we did Cherry Cask, but it was in a used Cabernet barrel for 2 years, and then we used some Japanese cherry wood. I think it's called Sakura wood.
Yeah.
So this year's is pretty interesting. It's super fruity. Chris and I are finding it's really good on ice, or even if you want to do that Japanese whiskey thing, make a highball into it. It's just so, it's a little intense on its own, but it's really good. And I think there's plenty of just regular whiskey out there where it's good to be a little experimental too, and there's so many distilleries now where if you're just making another bourbon, I'm not sure that's going to grab people's attention. But
has there been anything, I guess I'll ask you two questions. What's the weirdest thing that you've made that you're proud of? and then what is something that is in the back of your mind that when you have the time and the resource and the things to do, you want to make your white elephant?
Yeah. It's a good question. In the gin world, I think it'd be really cool to incorporate chaga mushrooms. That could be a cool thing I'd try in the future. And I had dinner with my neighbors who made some interesting brownies with ancho chili peppers in it.
Ooh.
And that, for some reason, crossed my mind that maybe a little bit of that chili spice, just a hint, would be nice in a gin. So I almost thinking something with chaga mushrooms, which actually has more of, almost tastes like coffee when you brew it.
Yep.
And ancho chili or something like that. But as far as whiskey goes, I'm definitely stoked to do Mizunara. That's not something people usually get to do, and when you do it, you usually mix it with a few other barrels. It's a pretty expensive barrel, so if we can have like just a Mizunara whiskey as opposed to aged in Mizunara mixed with some whiskey that was aged in sherry and used bourbon, and it might be a little much for some people, but that'd be something I would be into, especially if I could do that with 100% rye. No, I could see that being maybe something that would be fun. But that, I don't know, rye is just interesting. I find it just not boring at all. Where bourbon, if you go real far, you're over 10 years old, you know, you got all those nice leather caramel sweet notes, but it kind of sticks there. And that being said, you get real fancy and it gets pretty complicated. But anyhow, I really like rye.
Yeah, I do too. And with Chris, when we were talking, I tried the rye after we got off camera, but I'm a big fan of your Santer because I love the American single malt, the espressos and chocolates that come from a malt. But I also love rye. I'm like I told you, I got into Scotch first, and then I started realizing, oh yeah, I'm American. Bourbon's there. There's a lot of great bourbons. A lot of the bourbons that I love are a lot of like either a wheated bourbon or like a malted rye and bourbon, or there's a really good bourbon coming from Los Angeles Distillery in LA, where it's 51% corn, 49% malted rye.
I've had one. What's that called again?
LA Distillery.
Oh, okay. The one I got wasn't that, but I tried that, and it took me a second. I think it was Ben Holiday. It was called.
Yes.
It took me a second, but that one really started to grow on me. At first, I got just, I don't know, single malt's one of those things that unless it's 100% barley, I feel like I almost taste the barley more when I'm doing a half and half kind of thing like that. But I do think you'll see more mash bills that aren't like typical, hopefully in the future. Everything, when you look into their mash bills, seems like everyone in the bourbon world does 70% corn, equal parts whatever rye or wheat mix to barley, and which is cool, but I would like to see some different mash bills out there. And so Santer's cool with that 80-20. That's not like something you see all the time, but I do think it worked pretty well where especially with all that French oak in there.
Yeah. And I mean, and it's not that old either. And which
not super old. It's over 2 years old, but not super old.
Yeah. That was one thing I was talking about, Chris, and I'm curious from the making side of it. Is there any thought process into you're making something that's going to age for a while, or maybe not age that long at all? It depends. But North Carolina is kind of a weird temperature, and he's telling me you guys got 12 to 15-year-old barrels of this American single malt. That to me is wild, and that's awesome. But do you think about that in the production side of like, okay, this is going to be something that we're going to sit on? And does that make you frustrated as a maker that you have to wait for the fruits of your labor to be seen?
No, that's the hardest part of whiskey. I mean, I've been here 3 years, and there's a couple things that have really developed in that time, but it's going to be ideally 5 to 10 more years till. No, I have found that if you can make it and just kind of forget you made it, that's ideal. And then try. It's fun to remember. Oh, forgot we haven't tried. Just yesterday we tried a single malt we got in a port barrel, which I love port finish.
Yeah.
And so it was just awesome to forget about it, realize, well, it's almost 2 years old, let's try it. I mean, and it was whiskey we had already oaked beforehand, so it was a little developed before we even put it in the barrel. But anyhow, so something like that can be really nice. But we are really lucky that this place got started in 2010. We don't have an insane amount of old stock, but to have it is super unique. I mean, I can't imagine there's many other distilleries in North Carolina, at least, that have stock like that. And
well, especially single malt.
Especially single malt. And we have a very, you know, I would say for whiskey, a warm climate zone, which means that we lose a lot of whiskey over 12 years. There's not much left in that barrel. It also means there's a lot of color for single malt, even though it went into a used Jack Daniel's barrel. It's pretty colorful. And the other fun part is that when you're a warmer climate, you tend to lose more water than alcohol. So a couple of our 12 years, even though you can only legally go into the barrel at 125 max, which they did, it jumps in proof over time.
Oh, yeah.
So a couple were at 150. And I do remember when we first, this is when the previous distiller was here, till we all tested them at 150 proof, all kind of trying to be like, oh, yeah, you know, after a few sips, I started getting the hiccups. So it was like, I think I'm going to sort of add in a little water. Like, this is a little strong, you know. But when it's 12 years old, it can kind of sneak past you a little bit, where it's way smoother than it should be at 150 proof.
Yeah, absolutely.
But that has gotten me into liking higher proof whiskeys. Just if you can be slow and sip on it, really slow. By not diluting it too much, you just get such a big oak flavor.
Yeah.
And so, I don't know, I'm surprised there's not more cask strength even out there. And cask strength at that, no water added at all, especially Tennessee, Kentucky whiskey, where they do jump up. I mean, Jack Daniel's has some that are pretty high, 130 plus, but
Hoy Hill stuff,
yeah, I don't know. If I was a whiskey buyer, I would definitely be after those interestingly high proof whiskeys.
That distiller that I talked to you about in Milwaukee, that is one of the distillers there. He calls us proof heads. Apparently it's a term that's in the whiskey world, that
Proof heads.
Okay, where we are more in favor of higher proof alcohol.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, which I mean, I'm yes, I am.
Well, and like I said, you get that big flavor, but then you can kind of like go from there, where it's gonna taste different the more water you add, like, because the burn adds to it. And once you add too much water, not too much, but enough where the burn's not there as much, you're going to start picking up on things that you didn't notice before because you were a little distracted by how high proof it was. But so I like to taste it kind of through the spectrum a bit. I mean, honestly, I add ice pretty often to my bourbon and rye. For some reason, single malt, I don't. And I just think it doesn't need the colder temperature for some reason. But
yeah. Well, I don't know. I forget who told me this, and it's probably on one of my episodes at some point. But I wanted on a T-shirt. Alcohol is a vehicle for flavor, and I've stuck with that because I've noticed, and I've even played with some family and friends who are not whiskey people, and they you've probably seen it before from friends or family where they take a sip of whiskey and that face of like, oh, the burn, it's alcohol. And I actually did a test run on one of my family members. I gave her an 80 proof whiskey, and she's and I said, I want to try something. I gave her a 55% whiskey, 110 proof. And she didn't like it, but it was better. I thought, ooh, so maybe it's a flavor thing. So I've latched onto that mantra of like, I think there's more there complexity with the alcohol if it's not proof down. But it also just might be.
No, yeah, I would think of it, yeah, but you're definitely right, but it's just kind of different. But you're definitely right. It's more concentrated too, but that's a good point. Maybe the problem that people are having isn't so much that the burn, or that's what they think the problem is. Maybe they just, it's a little too lackluster for them and they need it a little stronger.
Yeah. So, well, what are you most proud of in the lineup that you have right now? What's your go-to? What's your favorite to make? Those are probably different answers, but
I guess even though I love Santer and I love Devil's Cut quite a lot, I'd still have to say 100% rye just because it is interesting to make. Now, bourbon has been really fun too, even though we don't have this on the lineup yet because it's still aging. But as far as the lineup goes, I would say I enjoy making rye.
Yeah, and Chris and I tried it off camera, and I think this is my second favorite of what you have.
What's your first?
I love your Santer.
French Oak's just too good. I'm a big fan of Maker's Mark 46, and that's just their bourbon with just a few French Oak staves.
Yep.
We did it a little more hardcore, added more than that, but I'm a big fan. It's like, I don't know.
It's unique. And I told Chris when I first engaged with him to come out here and talk to you guys that you were my first North Carolina whiskey that I tried when I was visiting friends and family down here.
That's cool. Is it a regular single malt?
Yeah, yeah. And it was great. I walked into an ABC and thought, okay, local, North Carolina. I saw your bottle. I thought, cool, grabbed it. I've been trying to make time to come up here, and obviously now I have the show and I'm doing production and all the things. So I'm like, what better reason? So
I'm glad you made. Is this your first time out here?
First time out
here. I'm glad you made it out.
Yeah. So I love the stuff that you're doing. You're obviously the artiste behind it all. So congrats and kudos to what you're doing. It's really awesome.
Well, thank you. And make sure before you leave, I don't think we brought it out here, but we got something called Defiant One. Did Chris tell you about that at all?
No.
It's something. I was talking about the old stock. So Chris had 2 of our old stock barrels were in used red wine barrels, and he basically mixed those 2 and came out. It was a little over 9 years old when we did it. And when you age in a red wine barrel, it's usually a finish in a red wine barrel. It's finished for a year, maybe 6 months, 2 years. So 9 years in the wine barrel made it really wine heavy. Not that nobody does it. I found some other mostly Japanese whiskeys that do 10 years in a sherry or wine barrel. Gets this beautiful red color to it, as well as your dark oaky colors. But I want to say that's one you'll want to try while you're here. It's pretty unique. And one of the wine barrels was weird. It was something I hadn't heard of. It was in a barrel that was Pennsylvanian oak, which I read was similar to Hungarian oak, which we're in a wine barrel world right now, which I don't know much about, but it's supposed to be kind of robust. And so it had a totally different profile than the Napa Cabernet barrel did. So they mixed great, and you'll definitely want to try that. And then our next one coming up after that is called Hidden Barrel. That's just at 12 years old. And that was in one of the used Jack Daniels barrels, just a regular American single malt. And we don't use peated barley or anything like that. So I want to say it's another super unique product out there. And I know you'll like it, especially if you're a Scotch guy. But this got, I think maybe just because it was a Jack Daniels barrel, or maybe because of the Lincoln County process they send their whiskey through, you get a big char flavor for single malt, but this worked great. I just love it. So you'll want to try that before you leave. Make sure I give you it with a little water unless you want to try it at cast strength. That one's one that's at 150. So
okay, well I have to try it at 150.
Okay,
but then we'll also add water to it after.
Yes, that's what I would recommend. Just start there, dial it back. Also, you've already maybe gotten your first burn off for the day. I always find that first sip of whiskey in the day is kind of a little hot, no matter what proof it is.
100%.
And then after that, your mouth's not gonna be offended by that first burn anymore.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, good. Well, I'm here all day with the festival, everything.
Oh, cool.
My wife's driving, so
that's cool too.
So I'm here for business
And
purposes.
safe. Well, that's awesome.
Well, Zach, thank you so much. Thanks for sitting down, joining the episode. This is I love your stuff, and I look forward to coming back.
Oh, cool.
Thanks, brother. That's it. Well, Rita, welcome to the episode.
Thank you.
I had Chris, I had Zach,
Uh-huh.
and now we have you.
Yes.
What do you do here?
I do the marketing.
Okay, that's
So
important.
yeah, I create ads. I do the one sheets, the product sheets.
Yeah.
and try to push for us to be in events and whatever it takes to get our name out there.
I love it. I'll ask you more about the Defiant and the Blue Ridge Distilling Company story from your perspective as a marketer. I always love that. I mean, especially because I'm in media and distilling and brewing. I do a lot of stuff. So I always find it interesting how different small businesses market themselves, especially in the alcohol industry. But I'm curious about your story. How did you get into marketing, and how did you get into marketing in a distillery?
Okay, well, this is a very interesting question. I'm actually, I was doing customer relations for Global Strategies. I don't know if Chris talked about his other company, Global Strategies, or not.
Briefly, yeah.
Okay, so I'm actually Chris's wife.
Oh, okay. Well, spoiler alert.
So, when we became involved in the distillery, I wanted to participate somehow, and I have some, graphics background, and so I thought this will be fun. So it just started off as helping out, and now it's kind of like my full-time job.
Wow, that's awesome.
Yeah.
Do you find it different or difficult in different ways in other industries? Because like the alcohol industry is unique.
It is unique, and it's very challenging in some ways. And I would say that the most challenging aspect of, the alcohol industry is distribution. You could get your name out there as much as you want, but if the distributors don't cooperate, it's a 3-tiered system, and it's very hard to get it into, we have so many people from different states where we don't distribute. Like, how can we get it? And even Tennessee, where we have a lot of demand.
Yeah.
But unfortunately, the distribution isn't cooperating with us, and they won't release us.
Do you find yourself wanting to play into that, or do you kind of avoid it as a talking point and just say we're gonna work with what we have? Because I have seen people out there who are like, not to play the victim, but
well, we're trying to do direct to consumer as much as possible, and so we're developing that right now.
Okay,
and so that'll help a lot.
Yeah, I know. I'm a part of a lot of different conferences, ACSA, ADI. I'm on the Veterans Board at ADI. Distribution is the biggest issue. But there's also a lot of court cases right now going on with different states that are discriminating against other states importing. I think it's California and New York right now are fighting over who can get alcohol from who.
Oh, right.
There's a couple of cases that are happening. There's one Supreme Court case that's happening. So I'm kind of curious where the market goes the next 5 years, because DTC is the future.
Yeah.
If I can just go online and order, it shouldn't be a problem.
Yeah. And we're really counting on that too.
Do you think that shifts your marketing strategy a lot then?
I think so.
Because now you're going to probably focus on social media and local.
Yeah. And we just, did a huge upgrade on our website. And you're going to be able to do DTC on it. Like I said, it's in the developmental stages.
Right.
But that was our main focus, was to be able to provide that on our website.
Yep.
And
I love that.
So we're excited about that.
I have to ask you about the name. I asked Chris, and I'm just curious. I moved to North Carolina just about a year ago, and I was visiting friends down here for a while before that. When I first visited North Carolina, I walked in an ABC store. I wanted to try something local, and Defiant was the first single malt. It was this guy right here.
Oh, excellent.
Yeah.
That's good to know.
Yeah. I did not know, and I probably just didn't read the label close enough. I didn't know your name was Blue Ridge Distilling Company.
Oh, right.
So I'm curious about, and as you launch other SKUs and things, that'll probably be more important, but has that been tough as a marketer to, like, you're known as Defiant?
Right.
I'm probably going to ask you and Chris off camera, what do we name the episode? Is it Defiant Whisky or is it Blue Ridge Distilling Company? You know what I mean?
That's a good question.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So has that been a thought process?
Not really.
Okay.
I mean, our brand is Defiant Whisky.
Yeah.
So, and we want that out there. And with the website now, we're trying to push the Blue Ridge Distilling as well, because we're going to have some other products that will be under Blue Ridge Distilling and not under Defiant.
Right.
So, I think eventually both names will be, as recognizable. But for right now, it is Defiant Whisky that's much more recognizable.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
I was just curious, because you're the marketing, so. Very cool. Well, tell me what is the story of Defiant? What is your elevator pitch to someone who how do you sell someone on this place?
Well,
what's special?
What's special the most special thing I think about us is that we are a micro distillery. We're very small. I mean, the operation is very small. It's hands-on. We do everything from grinding the grain all the way to finishing it in wood. And so the quality control is there. We're really meticulous. We want to know every stage how it tastes.
Yeah.
And for most of our products, we only use 4 ingredients. Our water is from our aquifer right below us.
I love that too.
Yeah.
That's a great part of the story.
That's why we're here in the middle of nowhere. But it's beautiful. So
well, I was driving up here with my wife. She'd drive me off, and she'll be back for the festival. We'll hang out. But we drove up this back road, and it's like it felt like I was going to a distillery.
Yeah,
like that. It
has that feel, right? The rustic
aesthetic.
feel,
Exactly.
And right now, with the leaves turning, we couldn't take a better time.
I know. I'm glad I'm here when I am. Also, you have a microclimate here too. Does it get crazy hot here like it does in other parts of the state, or is it just?
I don't think so. Because we're up in the mountains.
Yeah.
I mean, it does get hot.
Of course.
And then we get the snow. The wicked.
So you have a big swing.
Yeah.
Oh, that's interesting.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm originally from Wisconsin,
Mm-hmm.
and I'm glad I'm in North Carolina because I don't do well with the winter.
Yeah.
I shoveled enough snow for my lifetime.
Yeah.
But no, it's interesting. And I love how beautiful it is out here.
It is
gorgeous. You have a very picturesque location. Yeah. Which makes it easier for you to market.
Absolutely.
Well, is there anything else that you want to add to the Defiant story, or is there what is your go-to beverage while you're here? The perks of the job.
The perks of the job is, I mean, obvious, right? But I'm really proud of our products. Our rye has won so many awards. I mean, double gold in the New York International Spirit Competition.
Isn't that wild?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And even the International Whiskey Competition, it won, I want to say, 2nd place.
Wow.
Yeah. It's And, Devil's Cut also got gold. I mean, I think all of our products have won awards. And so, it's great to be part of something that's quality.
I love to hear it. Well, and I told Chris the rye is my favorite.
Oh, is it? It's mine too.
It's good.
Although, have you tried the Devil's Cut?
I have.
Yeah.
It's phenomenal.
Yeah.
All your stuff is great.
Thank you.
I have to say that to you. She'll kick me out if I don't say that. Honestly, congrats on what you guys are doing.
Thank you.
This is really cool. I'm glad to be here. Like I said, I'll be here all day with the fest.
Great.
And my wife's driving.
Have a good time and
Appreciate it. Thank you so much.
Thank
it's good to meet you.
You
Cheers.
too.
If you enjoyed this episode, I'd really appreciate a follow and share on social media, subscribe to our YouTube, and be sure to give us a rating and review on your favorite podcast platform. Everything you see and hear is out of pocket for us, including travel. If you support our mission of showcasing the amazing stories behind these small businesses, do me a favor and head over to buymeacoffee.com/craftedconvos. Buy Me a Coffee is an awesome way to help creators like me with simple one-time donations or a monthly contribution. Every dime goes into giving these breweries, distilleries, and more some much-deserved limelight. If you have any questions or concerns, please reach out. Cheers!
A special thank you to our supporters, The Bar Book, Distillery Products, and Virtue Feed and Grain. To learn more, please visit www.craftedconvos.com.